Hey, what is going on, everybody? Boilon here, back for another video on Raid Shadow Legends. And now that the Titus fusion event is a bit behind us, we already need to start talking about the next fusion event in front of us. Now, I don't know who that is going to be yet, but I think in today's video, we're going to be talking about all of the tips that you can do to best prepare for fusion events in general, whether you're a new player or maybe you're a mid-game player who maybe hasn't been able to finish some of these fusion events all the time. Hopefully, by the end of this video, you'll have some tips to help prepare you a little bit better so that you can complete these events, because there's a handful of things that make it a lot easier and things that you really do need to make sure that you have as well. Now, before we get started with the video, I do want to remind people that if you haven't started playing Raid Shadow Legends yet, what are you waiting for? Download using the QR code in the top right hand of the screen or in the link in the description below to get Karato, Fox Hunter, Legendary of the Shadowkin for free, and 3 epic champions, some great ones: Ugo, Lady Annabelle, and Fane at account level 10, 20, and 30. And until the end of August, you can get yourself a free legendary Tholan Balbeard of the Dwarf faction. He was the former, speaking of fusions, he was the former fusion for the June fusion event. So yeah, amazing character. I use him every single day. So let's get started, right? The top 5 things I think that you need to know really to do really well in fusion events. Some of these may seem obvious, but some people might not know that you're able to do that. Now, for example, you can see here that I'm currently sitting at above my energy cap. Now, I play a lot. I play this like 2 to 3 hours a day. So I tend to use this. However, and I also do have a decent gem supply. I'm going to give this a quick little I don't know what to say. Push here that the daily gem pack, if you are playing every single day for Raid Shadow Legends, which a lot of us are, this is the best bang for your buck in terms of light spending. So this is 10 US dollars. You're going to be getting gems every single day, all the way to day 30. And this gems is really helpful for you to be able to get more energy, which is required to grind events in Raid Shadow Legends for fusion events. Just to kind of give you guys an idea, which I'm sure you're aware of, this is the Titus event, right? And a lot of these did require energy, especially the dungeon tournaments. So Ice Golem tournament, Corrosis Conquest tournament, Fire Knight, Spider, Dragon, all of that. They usually have each one of those. Maybe not the event dungeon, but they have at least the 4 main dungeons for you to do. And then champion training, which often does require you to spend energy as well. Now, the dungeon divers allow you to double dip because often they're running through one of these other dragon tournament, the dungeon tournaments and things like that. So there are ways that you can kind of lower the amount of energy that you need, but inevitably energy or gems in this instance is one of the main things that you do need to make sure that you're preparing. And so whether it's through buying some packs, the daily gem pack is the best one. You could also buy the daily energy pack. This one's pretty good value as well. These are probably the only things that I would actually buy as far as spending goes. And with all that being said, making sure that you have a supply of gems and energy stockpiled is of critical importance. Now, you don't have to be on the energy side of things, but there are things that you can do to prepare for that. So you might have noticed that sometimes I have a lot of like random inbox crap, mostly classic arena tokens. But you might notice that you occasionally get full energy free not promo, sorry, free claims, which you would get in the shops, and this normally comes under the limited special offer. So I've already claimed I claim my daily one. That's what's sitting in right there right now. Now you don't need to claim this, because what's great is that whenever you buy something, or whether or not you get those free claims, a lot of times that they're sitting in there for 99 days, and so you could stockpile this, and you don't actually have to consume them, because for example, if you want to get more energy without using this, aka you want to leave it in your inbox and you want to actually let it sit there, you can just click on the energy box. Actually, you can go into the, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, you can go directly and buying, I believe it's right here. So if you go directly and you buy the full energy, because I think if you were to click the energy button, it wants you to use the potion. But if you want to circumvent that, go into the gem shop and buy an energy token. I'll just do this once just to show you guys that it does actually buy that. Now you can buy that in here, and you can keep buying these, and you can, instead of having to consume them right away, it does actually sit here for 99 days. And so you can use them at your leisure when you want, or save them for that, or just, save the gems, right? It just doesn't really matter. It's not that big of a difference. And so that's something that's really, really important. Gems and energy is, I would say, one of the top 2 most important things in a fusion event. But that's not all, because we need to move on to number two. And this also may seem a little bit obvious, but some not. And obviously, one of the biggest things in order to clear these events, we have to go back to the calendar again, is going to be the Summon Rush and Champion Chase tournaments. You cannot clear a fusion event without doing shard summoning. That's just it, right? You have to do this. Now, in this instance, for the Titus event, you're able to do this Summon Rush 2 down here, which had extra fragments that you could use in order to skip both Summon Rush 1 and the Champion Chase tournament. So you didn't actually need to do that. So inevitably, though, you do need a decent amount of shards to be able to save for a fusion event. Now, this can vary. This could vary anywhere from like 10 to 15 sacred shards, right? It really depends on how many events that you actually need to clear and what those point thresholds are. But somewhere in that realm. Now, obviously, you can also do a combination, all your shards, right? So it really just depends. But you do need a decent amount. Now, void shards are better used for champion chase tournaments because they do give you bonus points for void characters. And that's also really important as well, to know that when to use certain shards for what events, etc. Or I guess what 2x events are running, and that way you can double dip for these kinds of things. Also, don't discount mystery shards. This is super, super important. I have lots of mystery shards. Where do I get them? Well, I'm farming them from chapter 12. When I do my training, my food grinding from chapter 12. You can also buy them in the marketplace, and that's something I recommend doing all the time. Depending on how frequently you're on, they refresh every hour, and normally I see like anywhere from like 1 to 5 of them, and I buy them up all the time. And that plus the chapter 12 farming gives me a lot of mystery shards. And this gives you 1 point per shard on the summon rush, which doesn't sound like a lot, but I have enough mystery shards in here right now that I could probably clear a summon rush event on this alone without touching any of my other shards. So it does actually add up quite significantly over the long term. So make sure that you're, not discounting these. Now, alongside that same thing, and I don't know if this is gonna be like 2/3, is the fusion event the fusion portal, because you can use characters like Broadmaw or Relic Keeper. Broadmaw's a little bit easier if you have the void characters available, that you can save these in the bank. And that's what I have right now. As you can see that I have these 3 characters, and then I'm going to ascend them to Broadmaw later on another champion chase, which will give you additional points for void epics, because what I said earlier on is that you get better points for summoning void characters on a champion chase tournament. So having some of these in backup actually might be very helpful. Not necessarily Relic Keeper, but Broadmaw, because he is a void epic character, and he will give you additional points for that. You can also use your fragment summons as well in some cases for champion chase too, so do keep that in mind if you're sitting on a bunch of them. But I know a bunch of people do prefer to use this, I think, either for champion chase or for clan versus clan, like personal clan versus clan, which happens like once a month. So keep that in mind as well. Now, the other thing that I want to talk about is silver. So you do need a decent amount of silver to be able to clear fusion events as well. And I want to talk about, again, we're bringing up the calendar, right? So in the Titus one specifically, there was there was 3 gear enhancement events, right? And each of these gear enhancement events, this is going to vary in terms of how much silver you need to clear them, but it could take you anywhere from 15 to 20 million silver, depending on your luck. There is some RNG in terms of basically how much it costs you to hit level 16. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is because I don't want people to waste their silver on stuff they don't need to. Also, this is just a side tip. This isn't a number tip or anything by any means. Make sure that you do some liquidation of your gear at some point. I know that this is a pain in the ass for a lot of people, but you probably have a lot more silver sitting around in your inventory than you actually think. For me, and I'm not saying this is what you should do, where I'm at in the game, I primarily do not use a lot of 5-star blues. I mostly focus on 5-star purples and higher and 6-star gear. So not always, but sometimes what I do is I just do a select all, and I then like cancel out things that I want to keep, and then I sell the rest. Right? That's just a quicker way for me to do that. For me personally, I at my point in the game, I very rarely use 5-star blues. But depending on where you're at in the game, just make sure you're not blowing your silver upgrading things outside of fusion events for gear enhancement, because I normally wait, and I know this sounds boring, but normally I wait for gear enhancement events in fusion events to upgrade my gear. And how I do that is normally I would just search for anything that's a substat of speed. Why? Because 90% of the gear that you're using is going to have some sort of speed stat on it. And so that's how I look for gear to upgrade. But I only do this during the gear enhancement period, because that's going to be so important to make sure that you're on top of the amount of silver that you need so you're not blowing it outside of these events. I know a lot of this sounds boring, and a lot of it sounds like, yes, you need to hoard a lot of crap, whether it's energy, whether it's gems, whether it's silver, whether it's shards. It seems like you're hoarding it just for fusion events. And yes, that is true. You tend to, you're kind of in this cycle where if you want to complete a fusion event, you need to make sure you have all of this stuff prepared for your events. And then you just kind of like do it all at once in some within that 2 week period of the fusion event, you kind of do a lot of your upgrades at this point in time, whether it's new champions through shards, whether it's new gear upgrades through silver, or your food, right? Food farming for champion training events, through grinding with your energy and other tournaments. You kind of are kind of holding out to do that. I do tend to actually hoard in between fusion events. I don't tend to play as much. I don't do these regular tournaments, and that's going to be leading into tip number 4. Don't take the bait. I think at 4. Am I at 5? I don't even know anymore. But anyways, don't take the bait on some of these events that pop up between fusion events, because they're just there to clear out your energy. And you don't really need to do this unless there's a really good reason. Like, I don't think that it's really that big of a deal, especially for early and mid game players and non-spenders who don't have a lot of these resources. Just kind of skip a lot of this stuff that's ongoing right now, unless things like Classic Arena Takedown, pretty easy. You could just do this on your own, right? But certain events, like, they're just designed to kind of grab. And we talked already about the Path of the Lost with Balar, that a lot of these events are just designed as a trap, as a pit, to kind of get you to blow your resources, whether that's your energy or whether that's your gems, before a new major event goes by, so that you'll be FOMOing out and you'll be spending more money in order to catch back up. That is the Plarium way, and that's what they try to do with you. So don't fall into that bait. The other thing that I want to talk about, and I think this will be my end at tip number 5, is making sure that you have enough champions, whether it's blue or whether it's green. I actually make sure that I have like a stockpile of these guys. And I know this sounds kind of weird, but I actually have a massive reserve vault of green champions, because when it comes time to actually upgrading characters for champion training, you need a lot of food. I am not joking. You need a lot of food. So you do get some of these just for grinding away at chapter 12, but I do actually go out of my way to then go buy more and make sure that I have like more than enough so that I don't run out. Because there has been times where I have done like 2 or 3 champion trainings in a single fusion event, and I'm actually running out of champions to feed. So don't run into that same mistake. Depending on how many shards you're pulling in general, you can kind of use those for foods too, whether it's mystery shards or for ancient shards. I don't tend to keep 1 stars around, but I do keep 2 stars and 3 stars as well when I am working on champion training. So that's just a little bit tip there. That's my final tip here to prepare yourself for fusion events. These are all the things that you need basically going into a new fusion event. There's probably going to be another one in about 10 days or so, or less than 2 weeks at this point by the time this video goes out. And hopefully we'll have time to talk about that in the days ahead. But that's going to be the end of this video. But before we do go, I do want to remind you that if you haven't started playing Raid yet, or you want to start a brand new account, then you can download using the QR code in the top right hand of the screen to get Corrado Fox Hunter for free, and 3 amazing epics alongside him: Ugo, Lady Annabelle, and Thane at account level 10, 20, and 30. And don't forget to use your promo code Demon Slayer to get yourself a Tholen Foulbeard absolutely free. One of the best dwarf characters in the game. I use him every single day, so don't delay there. Having a lot of fun, and I'll see you guys all on the next video. And if you like this video, make sure you hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, and you'll be greatly helping out the channel. Have a great day, and I'll see you guys on the next one.